Thanks for coming out this Sunday afternoon, Spanish with Utah. This is our email address for comments, correspondence, and feedback. Website's there for more information. Everything is inspired by the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Om Magana Timarandasya Ganagana Salakya Chaksurim Hiditam Yana Tashmai Sri Deve Maha Sri Chaitanya Yogistam Stapitam Yana Bhuttare I'd like to talk today about persons or people of integrity. I think we'll all agree that there's a lot of compromise in our society today. People who think about being dishonest, making ends meet, underhanded deals, not keeping their word. And then they wonder, in all of that, why they can't get ahead. Our answer is because they don't have something called integrity. Integrity is the foundation of a successful life. You can have vision, you can have talent, you can have determination, but without integrity, you're not going to get to where God wants you to be. A person of integrity does the right thing even when nobody is watching. Can you believe that? They don't play on the computer when the boss steps away. They don't shortchange people on a business deal. They don't cut corners on your auto repair because nobody will find out about it. They give it their best whether anyone is there to witness or to know about it or not. There's a famous story about baseball slugger Ted Williams. He was 40 years old and was closing out his career with the Boston Red Sox, suffering from a pinched nerve in his neck. The thing was so bad, he later explained, that he could hardly turn his head to look at the pitcher. For the first time in his career, for the season, he batted under 300, just hitting .254 with 10 home runs. Still, he was the highest paid player in sports that year, making $125,000. The next year, the Red Sox sent him the same contract for the same $125,000. When he got it, he sent it back with a note. He told him he wouldn't sign it until they reduced his salary. He said, I never had any problem with them about money. Now they were offering me a contract that I felt I didn't deserve, and I only wanted to get paid for what I thought it was worth. And back then, according to the rules, the biggest cut in salary you could make and still keep a player on the roster was 25%. So they cut Williams' salary by $32,250 by his request. You can't help but wonder how many of today's athletes would be that humble or that honest. Ted Williams showed himself to be one of these people of integrity that we're talking about. And don't we all appreciate people with integrity? We appreciate it in our employees. We appreciate it in our employers. We appreciate it in our children. We appreciate it in our spouse. We want everyone else to have integrity, but we don't think it's so important that we have integrity. Integrity means they can be trusted, and whether you believe it or not, society runs on trust. There are people of integrity who are what they appear to be. They're whole, complete, well-rounded people. The word integrity means that there's nothing false in it. The word integrity means it's authentic, and to be authentic means it's the same inside as it is outside. Master architect Frank Lloyd Wright once said, what is needed most in society today is the same thing that's needed most in architecture. It's integrity. Don't we want integrity in our buildings? We sit here confident that in the integrity of this building, that it's not going to collapse. We go over bridges confident in their integrity. We don't want some hidden part that's made out of shoddy or secondhand parts. We want to be able to trust that when we get into an elevator, for instance, it will take us to the top floor. The bridge will take us across the river without plunging us into the river. We want to trust and depend upon bridges and buildings. We want integrity in the things that we own, in the things that we use, and we also want it in the people that we live with and work in. And something we often forget is we need to look for it in our own hearts. We need to have integrity first and foremost. That what we seem to be, how we present ourselves to people on the outside should be an accurate reflection of who we are on the inside. When you have integrity, you don't take supplies from the office to bring home to use. When you have integrity, you don't call in late to work and have somebody clock in earlier for you. When you have integrity, you don't spend half your workday making personal calls at the office. Well, they don't pay me enough anyway. Maybe not, but that's not integrity. If you'll do the right thing, our message today is that God, whom we call Krishna, will make it up to you. God keeps the records. He's a very good accountant. And many of the things, the challenges, the temptations to compromise, to stray into gray ethical areas are just tests. God is checking our integrity to see if we're ready for him to promote us to a higher level. Maybe the bank teller gives you too much money in return. Are you going to have integrity? Are you going to go back and make things right? Or are you going to get out into the parking lot and say, "Thank you, Lord, you did it again"? No. That extra change was not the answer to your prayer. Do you call in sick to work and on the phone you're coughing, sniffling, so that you can take a day off and go shopping? You could have won an Academy Award with that performance, but that's not integrity. Here's the bottom line. We can't deceive people and expect at the same time to have Krishna and God's favor. When someone knocks on your home door at home and you don't feel like them visiting, do you tell your child to go and tell them, "My parents aren't home"? Well, that works, but it's not integrity. And then don't complain down the road that your child doesn't speak the truth. We're leading by example. We can't just tell our children to do one thing, stay on the high road, and then we ourselves do another thing. Let them see us compromising. They're going to follow what we do much more than what we tell them. In the 4th round of a national spelling contest in Washington, D.C., Rosalie Elliott, then an 11-year-old from South Carolina, that's part of our story, was asked to spell a vowel. In her soft southern accent, she spelled it. But did the 7th grader from South Carolina use an A or an E as the next to last letter? The judges couldn't decide. They listened to the tape recording over and over and over and over again. But the critical letter, they really couldn't tell with their accent whether it was an A or an E. The judge there was named John Lloyd. So he put the question to the only person in the room who knew the answer. Who was that? Rosalie. Was the letter an A or an E? He asked her. And surrounded by whispering young spellers, she knew by now the correct spelling of the word. But without any hesitation, she answered that she had misspelled it and walked off the stage. What's interesting is the entire audience stood up and applauded, including a bunch of newspaper reporters, one of whom was heard to remark that Judge Lloyd had put quite a burden on that 11-year-old. Well, isn't it a sign of the age when we have to consider that to ask a 7th grader to tell the truth is putting a great burden on her? What's wrong with that picture? I think she gets a standing ovation for telling the truth. That's what you do when you have integrity. You don't lie for a temporary advantage. You keep your commitments. Another aspect of integrity is that you don't buy things that you know you can't pay for. True. I'm stretching my faith today. I'm going to Target. I'm putting this on the credit card, even though I don't have funds right now. True. I'm putting my faith to work. Wait a minute. Hold on there. Stretch your faith before you sign on the dotted line. Let Krishna bless you first, and then once you have the funds, then you can purchase it. It's not integrity to make commitments that you know you're not going to be able to keep. Don't promise people the moon when you know you can't even get to the clouds. Don't write a check and then pray for 3 days hoping it'll clear. Check your balance first. Be honest, be trustworthy, be a person of your word. According to Vedic culture, your greatest asset is not your home, not your job, not your bank balance. Your greatest asset, can anyone guess? Your reputation. Your reputation is the most valuable thing you have. It is said a good name is worth more than great riches. We know plenty of people have name and fame and wealth, but they're looked down upon. They're seen as shady. But when you're a person of integrity, people look at you and think, I can trust that person. They always do the right thing. They're honest, they're fair. They don't talk to me one way and then talk to my friends behind my back another way. They're consistent. Your name, your reputation is too important to let it be tarnished by not having the highest integrity in all of your doings. In the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna was thinking of taking a less than honorable course of action on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna jumped right in, quickly reminding him that for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Katiya shankiteva vyam shambhi bhatasya chakatir madada turichate. Elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, Jatasya hi durvamirnir druvanitasya tajmadapuri natom sotiram arasi. Arjuna, for one who has taken his birth, death is certain. And for one who is dead, rebirth is certain. As you sow, so you shall reap. What we sow in one lifetime, we may end up reaping it in the next lifetime. Therefore, Krishna says to Arjuna, in all circumstances, discharge your duty with integrity. One should not fear death as much as one should fear dishonest dealings. One who is inclined towards dishonesty can never achieve the favor of the Lord. And when you do the right thing, when you stay on the high road, that will take you much further along the road of life than being dishonest, manipulating, trying to engage and gain an unfair advantage. We can't, for instance, turn an exaggerated expense account and expect to be blessed. We can't be deceitful on taxes and expect to have God's favor. I heard about one accounting firm that had a little red box on its wall with a sign saying, in case of emergency, break glass. Inside were 2 air tickets to Brazil. I heard about a man named Adrian Thomas who had a bonfire out behind his drugstore in 1992 in Myersdale, Pennsylvania. His family had owned and operated this drugstore for 3 generations. He came to a fateful decision that winter. He'd seen the deaths of too many of his friends caused by lung cancer and heart disease. For 96 years, his family had sold tobacco products. But on that day, Thomas, his family members, and his employees boxed up all the cigars, the cigarettes, the snuff, the pipe tobacco products, piled them in the middle of the parking lot. He struck a match and used his state tobacco license to start the fire. A crowd gathered, and Thomas told the local media he could no longer put profits ahead of the health of his patrons. Well, of course, that single event probably didn't change the smoking habits of the country, and other swords quickly absorbed his profits. But this was a personal decision, not based on economics. Thomas was responding to his own sense of internal integrity. I think you'll agree with me that nowadays there's a lot we can get by with, hide, exaggerate. But can I tell you, anything that you engage without integrity keeps you back from going as far as you could have been. It's better to be truthful and have less. It's better to have God's favor, because it is only through God's favor that we're going to get to where we need to be in life. Too often, we're letting little compromises keep us from the big plans that Krishna has in mind for us. Instead of trying to cross the line, thinking about how much I can get away with and still get by, our suggestion this afternoon is to try a different approach. Why don't you try to see how far behind the line you can stay instead of flirting with crossing the line? Ask yourself, is this the right thing to do? If I was standing before God, what decision would I make? Bottom line, the more integrity that you exhibit, the more Krishna or God will bless you. When you are a person of integrity, you make decisions that honor God. You read the books that honor God. You watch the videos that honor God. You eat the food that honors God. You keep the friends that honor God. When you have integrity, you're the same in private as you are in public. When you have integrity, you don't treat people nice and kindly at the office and then come home and be harsh and demanding to your family. That's not integrity. That's called something else, hypocrisy. You don't treat outsiders better than you treat your family members. You treat your family members better than anyone else. You're not kinder to strangers than you are to your own spouse. You're not more considerate to co-workers than you are to the people who live in your own home. If you're a person of integrity, you're consistently kind and considerate to everybody. Will Rogers, the American comedian, once said, "People of integrity live in such a way that they're not ashamed to sell their parrot to the town gossip." Someone said, many people would be scared if they looked in the mirror and instead of seeing their face, they saw a reflection of their character. Some people on church or in the temple and in mosque on Sundays, they'll say, "Hey, good to see you, thanks for coming." They'll wave really big, friendly. But on Mondays, you cut that same person off in traffic, they'll give you a different wave, the one finger wave. And that's being two-faced. That's being a pretender. You have to get honest with yourself. We're not asking everyone to be perfect, but we're asking to be real. You'll never change if you don't first acknowledge that we have to get rid of some pretending in our lives. The next time you're tempted to switch over to the pretend you, the compromising you, the dishonest you, put your foot down and say, "No, I'm not going there. That's not who God created me to be. That's an imitation. I, as part and part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, am created to be loving, to be kind, to be honest, trustworthy, calm, and consistent." And if you talk to yourself that way long enough, you'll have integrity with yourself. You'll become consistent. You'll be the same on Monday as you were on Sunday. The same at work as you are at home. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. People may not be watching, but God is watching. Now don't take that as something negative. Man, I'm going to get caught. I'm in trouble. God's going to thump me with a baseball bat. Take it as a challenge. God is watching to see when He can promote you. He's waiting to see that when you pass these tests, He can take you to new levels. And I wonder how much higher we go, how much more favor and promotion we'd see if we would deal with these areas that are holding us back. If you value God's blessing in your life, you need to live your life with high standards. Maybe there's something you don't feel good about. If you have to talk yourself into it, if you have to make excuses as to why it's okay, can I tell you, don't do it. It's just not worth it. You'll never go wrong by saying no and taking the high road. You need to prove to God that He can trust you, that you'll go the extra mile to do what's right. There's a price that we have to pay to become everything that God created us to be. If it was easy, no one would do it. It takes people who have a made-up mind. I made up my mind. I'm going to honor Krishna. I'm not going to compromise, take shortcuts, do things that are unethical. I'm not going to push or manipulate people to get advantage. I'm not going to be sloppy in my business dealings. I am going to be a person after God's own heart, trustworthy, honorable, full of integrity. These are the kinds of persons that God rewards. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is in the 70s. A businessman in Bombay took a down payment from devotees on a piece of land to build a temple in Juhu, a very exclusive suburb of Bombay, right on the beach and where a lot of movie stars lived. His name was Mr. Nair. He took a very hefty down payment, and then he refused the devotees occupancy of the land. A little bit of investigation showed that Mr. Nair had a scam doing, where several times before the devotees he'd taken down payment on his land and then cheated the purchasers. So Prabhupada told the devotees, go onto the land and build a little temporary temple out of tin and 2x4s. When Mr. Nair heard that Prabhupada's disciples had occupied the land, he came to Prabhupada and with spittle coming out of his mouth. He clenched his fists and he shouted and raved at Prabhupada. He said, get that building off of my land. Remove those deities. If you don't do it, I will personally come and I will break the deities with a stick. And he stormed out of the room. That very week, Mr. Nair was hospitalized with a heart attack. 2 weeks later, he died. When the devotees brought the news of Mr. Nair's death to Prabhupada, at first he was silent. And then he quoted a verse that Prahlad Maharaj from the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam had spoken upon the death of his demoniac father, Hiranyakashipu. Modeti sadur ebi vidishya sarpahacha. Translates to mean even a saint is pleased when a snake or scorpion is killed. Prabhupada further mentioned that the Lord, the half-man, half-lion, Nrsimhadev, incarnation of the Lord, who is within the heart, had himself given Mr. Nair an attack for trying to cheat the devotees. Now, on the other hand, when you honor God and respect His devotees, there's a blessing in your life that protects you, guards you. When you walk in integrity, Krishna, God, puts a shield around you. He keeps fiery darts from hitting you. He's pushing back darkness. He's not letting temptation overtaking you. He's closing doors that would be harmful. Now, if you want to keep that shield up, keep your integrity up. Be trustworthy, honorable, a person of your word, somebody who can be counted on. Today, in large part, Americans have stopped acting in terms of their own moral, ethical, and religious beliefs. They've stopped acting on what they know is right, and the me has become the measure of everything. However, moral societies, historically speaking, are the only ones that work. If anybody thinks that there's not a direct and invaluable relationship between personal integrity in a society and that society's prosperity, that person just hasn't studied history. Great moral societies built upon faith of God, honor, trust, and the law blossom because they're harmonious, because people respect their fellow men as parts and parcels of the Supreme, because people have a common belief in something beyond themselves. It simplifies life immensely. You do not waste and spend your days fighting for turf, for privilege, for votes, for money, for power over your fellow men. Alexis de Tocqueville said it best when he realized, even at the beginning of the founding of our nation, quote, he said, "America is great because America is good. If America ceases to be good, she will cease to be great." And isn't that prophetic? Sometimes when we compromise and we do things that are questionable, we think we're gaining an advantage with people. We think we're getting the upper hand. But when you walk in integrity, that's when you're gaining a factual advantage with God. And his favor on your life will take you further than any advantage with people. Now, you may have made mistakes in the past. You may have had lapses in integrity in certain areas. That's okay. That's in the past. But our challenge is today's a new day. Don't go the next 30 years letting the same things hold you back. I heard about a very wealthy man who had a friend who was a contractor, a builder. This builder had backed down on his luck recently and didn't have a lot of business. So the rich man felt bad for his friend and decided to help him out. He gave him a set of plans for a new house and $200,000. And he said, "I want you to use these funds to build me a new house. You handle all the details, just call me when you're done." He assured him he would pay him additionally very well if he'd do a good job. This builder was so excited. Finally, he had some work. But he got to thinking, maybe he just cut a few corners here and there, save a little here, save a little there. He could pocket some of that money without anybody knowing about it. So he went out and found the cheapest concrete he could find. He had the workers water even that down so he could go further. He saved several $1,000s on the foundation, bought the cheapest lumber. Some of it was old, crooked, warped. He didn't care. It's going to be behind walls. Who's going to see it? He got the cheapest plumber, the cheapest electrician, on, left and right, cutting corners, counting money. When he finished, he had pocketed about $40,000. He was so happy, he called the owner over to look at the new house. The owner was very impressed. It looked beautiful on the outside. You couldn't tell from the outside that he cut corners. The builder couldn't wait to see how much the owner was going to pay him. The owner was known for being a very generous man. The owner says, "You know, I really don't need a new house. I already have a beautiful one. I just wanted to help you out." He handed him the keys to the house and said, "Here, you just built your own house." The builder nearly passed out. He thought, if I didn't know it was going to be mine, I'd have built it a whole lot better. Now, we may not realize it, but every decision we make, we're building our own house. We can cut corners here. We can compromise there. We can justify it by saying it's not hurting anyone. Who's to know? But it is hurting someone. It's hurting yourself. Everything may look fine on the outside, but that's not what matters. What really matters is what's on the inside. Are you watering down your foundation? Are you not being trustworthy in your commitments? Are you slacking off at the office? What kind of materials are you putting into your house? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're asking you this evening to be a person of integrity, to do the right thing when nobody is watching, to not let small things keep you from the big destiny that Krishna has in store. Start passing these tests. Be honorable. Be trustworthy. Be a person of your word. If you'll do this, Krishna, or God, is going to have a shield around you. He's going to keep you from making major mistakes. His light is going to guide your footsteps. You're not only going to be protected, but you're going to see promotion, good breaks, new levels of your destiny. You're going to see the fullness of your life. And this time around, and next time, you'll go back to home, back to God. Thanks for your kind attention. If any of that sounds good, you're invited to raise your arms with me and say the names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, good downstairs to eat in a few moments, but right now we're going to have a traditional Indian ceremony where we all stand up and ask Namahrita to sing the words up on the board. You're invited to listen or to join in or dance or whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharane Namaste Shandivadi Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivaswami Gauravanta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Paramahansa Parapakacharya Shri Srimadi's Divine Grace.